I love the fact that our next speaker and his bio is storyteller about a specific product. Having in mind that we went through 6 sessions all related on the topic of storytelling, that kind of fits if you think about it. Now, the session, as I promised when we ended Rich Mulholland's talk, is all about how do you set up your computer for presenting. This topic was brought to us by everyone here and everyone who was part of the last year's event. There were quite some people that were asking about that, and so, as I mentioned, I decided to kind of ask a friend of mine who is in the tech space to join us and tell us a little bit more about it. His name is Thomas, and I decided to ask him and invite him to join us, which is not very often for him to speak at a non-technical event, trust me on that one, because he recently actually published a post on his blog about that. And so it was a good reminder also to me that maybe he's the right person for that session, and the right person for all of you to bring you behind the scenes of what needs to be done before you actually go on stage or before you actually join a Zoom, Microsoft Teams call and then present whatever you have to present. Thomas, welcome to a non-technical conference. Hoping that you are going to enjoy the experience. And let's fire this up.
Thank you very much, Boris, for having me. It's an honor and pleasure to be here today. As Boris said, usually I'm a senior program manager at Microsoft, focusing on technology things around the Microsoft Cloud. But one of my big parts of what I do is actually doing presentations and telling stories about that and making sure that our customers understand what we are actually offering. And I think that is a big part. And so in the last couple of years, that's also where I, by the way, met Boris on different events about technology and also presenting. And I traveled around and did presentation in person. And now, obviously, in the last couple of years, I did a lot of presentations online. So all these tricks and things I'm going to show you, by the way, doesn't matter if you're doing your presentation and your demonstration online or if you do it in person at the event, they are working for all of that. So I traveled around, I did a lot of tech demos, and obviously I learned a lot, right, during these days. I did a lot of mistakes when I started and we're still doing, but I try to get better. And while I'm learning stuff, I want to share this and put that in a nice little package. However, that said, this session is not like you had great sessions before about storytelling, how you can tell your story. And for sure, if you can set up your PC in the best possible way, that doesn't make a good story, right? However, it's important to understand that to tell a good story, people need to understand your story. And if they get distracted by other stuff happening on your screen or on the beamer or whatever, they probably do not fully understand your story. So I want to help you remove these distractions and make you also look more professional in that way. So what I created is basically I call them the 3 rules of delivering great tech demos or presentations and set up your computer in the right way. So let's start with the first rule. And this is all about visibility, right? If you have to ask the audience or the people if they can read what's on the screen or on the slide, make it bigger, right? They can't read it. So don't even try to ask. If you have to, if there is a slight chance they cannot see it, that's not good, right? And the text size is only one thing. There's obviously a ton of more things we should take care of that. So let me go through a couple of things you can actually do on your computer. Now, these demos and these things I'm just showing you, I have done them on Windows 10. Windows 11. They also work on Windows 10 and other operating systems like Mac OS and Linux. So don't be worried, you get the idea what it actually means. Probably the settings look a little bit different depending on different operating systems, but you will get that. So first of all, how do I actually deliver a screen, right? So first of all, it's important to understand that resolution and scale actually matters, right? So we have obviously all these cool devices that have different form factors these days, but make sure if you deliver a presentation, to actually change the resolution to basically the gold standard in presentations, which is full HD or 1920 1080p, right? That is really the gold standard when it comes to have a resolution you use to present, to record a video, and so on. And then the next thing is, if you're doing a demo on your operating system or even in a browser, make sure you scale as well, right? You want to have everything a little bit bigger, almost awkwardly big, right? It's like, okay, I have to understand that a lot of people are either like on an event sitting at the back of the room and they can't really see what's going on. Or they, even if in a small room you have a bad beamer, the eyes of people are sometimes not that good. So you really want to make it sure you make it bigger. Now, this also counts for online presentations, right? You might say, well, people have big screens today, but it turns out when we look at the numbers today, like also in Microsoft, how our videos are consumed, we see a lot of videos are consumed on mobile devices these days, right? Sometimes even over 50, 60% are actually watching our videos on mobile devices. So you really want to make sure that people can actually see what's going on. So there's two settings in Windows. You can, like since Windows 10 and also working with Windows 11, which are display resolution and scale. So again, the gold standard, 1920, 1080p, and probably 125 to 150% scaling, depending on what you're presenting and how your apps work. The next thing is font size, right? Even though you have that scaling in place, please, please, please make sure that people actually can see things. And the cool thing here I'm showing you, now you can actually go and zoom in Notepad, right? How cool is that? But again, make sure that people can read that as well. The next thing is, this is now something I usually talk when I speak with developers who are presenting code and stuff like that. But even if you're not presenting code, if you're even presenting text in a form, we have now all these cool dark themes, right? So we have dark theme editors, even Word can be in dark theme, and so on. And this is great. I love dark theme, right, to work on. It's very easy on the eyes and so on. But to present, you can see here my example. It's way easier for people like in following a presentation and see what's on the screen when you use a light theme editor or Word in light theme or whatever. So this is something you should definitely consider if you're doing these presentations. Again, thinking about the people in the back and so on. They don't want to see a cool editor theme, which is sometimes helpful, but they really want to see what is going on. Next thing is, even if all the resolution is great and basically people can read what's on the screen, it's important that you obviously highlight and focus on the important pieces, like really people can actually see what is going on. And so there are some built-in tools in all the operating systems. On Windows, we have, for example, the magnifier tool, which allows you to zoom in, which is an accessibility tool, but it's also great if you do presentations. However, if you want to go a little bit more professional to present, there's a great tool called Zoom It. It's done by the Microsoft CTO, Mark Rusinovich, CTO for Azure. However, he did a lot of tools for Windows. And this allows you to configure a couple of zoom tricks. So you can use like keyboard shortcuts to zoom in, to freeze the picture and draw on it on what you're having on the screen. So that's a pretty cool tool I would look at. It's obviously free, it's very small, and to be honest, everyone, especially in the tech space, should use it. But also if you're not in the tech space, you should go out and try this out. It's a very simple tool to use and makes your presentation so much better because actually you can zoom in on the important stuff you're doing. So there is the link actually where you can get it, aka.ms/zoomit. That's where you can actually go out and download it for free. Now, let's go to the next rule. So we've said like size is obviously important, right? Rule number 2 is clean up. Again, I talked about keeping the focus. And so clean up your mess. Make sure you close all unnecessary applications. Nothing there which doesn't need to be open during a presentation. This will also help you obviously to reduce a little bit of performance from your computer and so on. And again, not just distract your audience, but yourself. Also make sure you turn off notifications. Nothing more embarrassing than notifications like this turn up. Now, this one is probably not even the most embarrassing one which can show up. But again, it's another distraction for you and it doesn't look very professional. So how do I turn this off? In Windows 11, we have like focus assist and do not disturb, which you can set here. So if I zoom in here a little bit, you can actually see that I can turn this on and then start a focus mode, for example, to work, but also to present. Another quick way is you open notification pane on the side, and then you have a little button on the top there for do not disturb. You see this little button there. If you press that one, you will actually turn on do not disturb, and so no notification are coming through in that case. Good. Next thing, if your desktop looks like this, you should probably change something. Not many people care which games you play and what your favorite cat pictures are. So make sure you clean this up. Now, you obviously want to keep your super good organizational system, right? That probably took years to build. But there's a small trick, and I actually learned that from Boris, if I remember correctly. Very simple. You do a right click, and then you say, don't show desk icons on the desktop. Super simple. It will hide them. They're still there, but you cannot see them as a desktop background. Super simple to do on Windows. Again, there's others for other operating systems as well. And again, no one puts you back. If you want to turn them on after your presentation, please do so. But it's a super easy and convenient way to clean up your desktop. The same thing, by the way, is also for your browser. Don't forget about your browser. Luckily, we don't have so many toolbars these days anymore, but there are still things like the favorite bar and so on, which can have personal information and also distracting things in it. Now, you can see here, I zoomed in a little bit. This is the Microsoft Edge browser on your Windows PC or Mac OS, or can also be another browser. But if you go to the favorite settings, you can actually say, hey, show the favorite bar only for new tabs or don't show it at all. And then you have a very clean browser just for that specific page. The same thing goes as well for the taskbar. Again, there are some very good people out there who can customize the taskbar. But again, I would not really recommend this during a presentation. So there are not just the taskbar, but we all know the system icons, right, on the right side and the time, and it can look like this, which can span almost across the whole device. You can also disable these or hide these, not disable, but hide these. So if you go into the settings, you can actually go to personalization, taskbar, and here, if you look at this, you have different options here. Probably worth for you to go through. There's a couple of things you can actually hide. System tray icons, but also, as you can see here, other system tray icons, which I turned off, right? At the moment, I just see OneDrive, but I turned off the other ones. They only show up in the extended view. So that's pretty cool as well to actually make it sure that you can clean this up. The other part is if you're presenting in a browser or any other app, like where you can show, if there is a full screen mode, use that one. Because again, it helps removing all this distraction from the taskbar, the favorite bar, and so on. So you can really go and do that. And very simple, in many browsers, you just go on the settings on the side, and then you have these arrows, which allow you to actually go and go full screen. You can also hit the F11 button on your keyboard as well. So you can just simply go and hide that as well. Speaking of the browser, again, if you're just demoing a website or something, then it's probably not necessary that you change all your resolutions, like the scaling features and so on. In many cases, it can be enough that you just go in, you do full screen, and then you zoom in the browser, again, scaling about 125 to 150%, depending on what you want to do. Now, that said, you obviously have sometimes things open which you need, or you want to present different tools, right? And so you really need to reopen, like you need to go from that program to another browser. Now, how about I could have multiple desktops, like multiple PCs next to each other, which I can just easily switch between them. And again, all common operating systems have these, especially also Windows 10, Windows 11, and Mac OS. They have something called virtual desktops. So here you can see, If I hit, for example, Windows Tab, I get this view and I can create new desktops, and I can then easily by keyboard switch through to different demos. So what I do is I have like my home screen where I basically run the presentation. Then if I do another presentation, I do it on the desktop too, and then I can add multiple of these and switch between them, but they're always cleaned up and nice and fresh. So rule number 3, that's basically the last rule I'm going to show you, is use colors. So you all know it's sometimes easy for us to really understand the differences between things if they almost look the same. So for example, if I show 2 different programs, I try to make them look different, right? Especially if I do a presentation where I show, hey, this is done the old way and this is done the new way, which is much better. I can actually use colors to make sure that these 2 things work together. And I can do that in many of the apps. I just took an example here. But of course, you can also do that for browsers. You can do that for other applications as well. And then I have a bonus rule for you. This is like the last goodie I want to give away. Pointers and mics. Obviously, if you want to show something on the screen, you need some sort of a pointer, right? And there are tools out there which can help you. But actually, you have that built into the operating system most of the time. So let's talk about the mighty mouse pointer. And for that, I want to ask you a simple question up front. What is easier to look at? What is easier to find? Which cursor? I would say the right one. I'm not 100% sure. I know it's difficult, but the right one has definitely something to it. Now, you can change the size of your cursor and even the color and other things in the accessibility settings in your settings of Windows and also Mac OS. Right? So if you go on the Windows side, if you look at this, you can change the size, but also the color, the style of the cursor to make it sure that people can actually easily find it on the screen during your presentation. And then last but not least, you probably ask, okay, but if I do PowerPoint, what can I do then? And so in PowerPoint, if you open that up on the bottom, you actually have a virtual laser pointer, which allows you to point on the slide with a nice red color to actually go through and point on different things. So even if you do an online presentation or streamed, and this becomes, by the way, more and more important if you do also hybrid events, right? For example, an event which is in person, you can obviously point with a real laser pointer on the screen itself, but if you are remote, you're not going to see that. So with the virtual laser pointer, which runs in the software, even the remote people can see that, and they get the benefit of that too. So with that, I want to say thank you very much for that quick 20 minutes I had the chance. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take these. And this is the blog post Boris mentioned at the beginning. So if you want to check that out, there's also aka.ms/techdemos, which is the direct link to my blog post where you have all this information again, and maybe even a little bit more than what I showed you today.
Thomas, thanks so much for that like super right on spot session and right on time session. There is just a comment here from Cindy who is saying that, hey, instead of the PowerPoint laser feature, you can use a hardware device like the Logitech Spotlight, which is also a great one. The most important part, I think, here, as you mentioned, is that these things are possible on any platform. Yes, on a PC, they will be called Zoom It, but on a Mac, they will be called Demo Pro, right? So what? The main idea here is the concept, and I think that is extremely the most important part. How often, by the way, do you see people with all of their their desktops full of icons? Is it on a daily basis too? Even at Microsoft, to be honest.
Way too often.
Way too often?
I see a lot of different desktops these days, so and it's way too often see all the icons.
Yeah, and still it's such a it's just 2 clicks away. It's
exactly.
Crazy. It's crazy. All right, we are right on time. I don't see any questions right now, but I believe there will be people joining and going to the blog post and taking a look at all of those details again. And for sure at the recording, everyone, I cannot tell you how important truly that is. Everything that Thomas just showed you are quick wins. These are quick wins that help you keep the audience focused on the story, focused on the message, and not be distracted with crazy things. Thomas, the last time I joined, by the way, there was a demo because we purchased, as you can imagine, software for this conference. So I joined a demo with a vendor from Dublin, and they were presenting to me their software solution. And as you can imagine, it's a web-based solution. And so they open a Google Chrome or whatever it was, and you just see 48 tabs opened, and I'm like, okay, it's just it's so crazy, you know, like you get distracted when the main idea is that the speaker himself or herself should try and push as hard as they can to focus your attention at what they're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, simple things sometimes make a big difference. Man, thanks for joining. That was a blast to have you here as part of Present Succeed.